Welcome back, everybody, to the Auto Accident Attorneys Podcast. I'm your host, Attorney Ali. The podcast, as always, is sponsored by the Auto Accident Attorneys Group, where we take care of you. Today, like most days, I've got my sister with me, Attorney Holly Cole.
Hello.
And again, we have our favorite return in-house guest, Attorney Rishi Patney.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely.
It's good to be back.
I love having you guys. I wanted to, even though this is an auto accident podcast, we do deal with insurance generally. And because the theme of the podcast is consumer facing and helping take care of people with information through the podcast, I wanted to today talk about insurance, but on instead of the auto side, the homeowner side. And the reason for that is I got a call from the office from Jamie that our roof was coming down. And it turns out that my older daughter, Madeline, had started to draw a bath in the master bathroom. And it was taking so long to fill the tub up that she wanted to go lay down and take a nap or rest. She didn't mean to take a nap. She wanted to rest. So she went to go lay down and fell asleep for about 90 minutes or so.
Oh my God.
And Jamie just heard what sounded like rain coming from the garage. So when she went to the garage,
Oh, wow.
she saw the ceiling coming down, water flooding the entire garage. Her car was soaked. And she ran upstairs and the entire master bath was flooded. So
Oh man.
I found myself in the situation where I needed to rely on insurance, and I'm always out here proselytizing, oh, you don't know anything about your auto insurance. I realized I don't know if my homeowner's insurance covers this.
Yeah.
So I thought homeowner's insurance would be a great topic, selfishly for me to talk about so that I might be able to learn a couple things today. I remember, Holly, you had a similar situation when you were living in Midtown in your condo.
I did. I woke up the morning after a birthday celebration for myself, so I wasn't feeling too hot. And I just hear like this pouring water, a similar sound. And I was like, what is that sound? And I go into the kitchen and it's just like a waterfall coming out of the island where my sink and dishwasher were housed. And it was just nonstop. And I'm trying with buckets to get it to
I don't think
keep
I
it
knew
at
that. It
bay.
was coming out of the sink.
Yeah. I mean, it was coming out of every orifice of that island. And
And you're hungover dealing with it.
and I was hungover. And the entire condo flooded a good 3 inches, I would say. All my furniture was damaged. It started to leak out into the common area. So the hallways of that condo building were carpeted. So of course the immediate concern is mold and how it affects other units. And
Do you have units below you?
I had units below me. I was on the 8th floor, so I was sandwiched between
Oh, wow.
and this is like a 20-story building. And turns out I didn't have homeowners insurance. Somehow, when we were getting the mortgage, it slipped through the cracks.
Did you not have homeowner's insurance, or did you have homeowner's insurance and the coverage didn't apply because the cause came out from?
No, it was no homeowners insurance.
Oh, that's
Someone screwed up. Someone screwed up on the mortgage lender side.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's like a Porsche dealership letting you drive off financing the vehicle
Mm-hmm.
with no gap coverage.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. I don't think I remembered that.
Yeah. So I was out of that unit for at least a month, and we had to come out of pocket to pay for that. And in that moment, I realized how important homeowners insurance is.
All right, so if you're listening,
Well, I mean, it's a pretty rare occurrence because part of the closing, what the lenders absolutely require is that you have a homeowner's policy in place with, a certain reputable company, and it's got to meet certain standards, and you have to have certain, kind of minimum coverage to make sure that because your home is actually the security for the loan, right? The mortgage.
Right.
So they absolutely insist that, they not only do you have a policy, but that the mortgage, like the lender, also be named on the policy, so that when they send you like a property damage check, it has to go through it's made out to you, the homeowner,
Mm.
as well as your mortgage company.
Yeah, 100%. And I realized that after the fact. I'd never thought about those things, and then I was like, "There's somebody messed up big time."
Yeah.
Was this back in the days when when they were going through loans so fast that they basically have those robo signs?
Not then. It was 2013, I believe, when I purchased the condo.
Okay.
So that was after the subprime.
Yeah,
But Rishi's right. It's technically that you were living in it, but it was the bank's condo.
right,
It's their money that they need to protect. So it's wild that they weren't running audits to make sure that their asset was protected.
right.
They do that with this building, actually, when it's coming up for renewal. I don't even have to remember because my bank will send a notice like, hey, if you don't renew it, we're going to put insurance in place and there's a premium for it.
Yeah,
But at least there's coverage.
Well, and a lot of lenders, they just to make sure you don't accidentally lapse on your policy or forget to make a premium payment, they'll actually make sure that a part of your mortgage payment goes into an escrow account, and then they pay the premium for you just to make sure that there's no lapse like that.
I'm also familiar with that. My bank just overcharged me. They tried to tell me that my property insurance or my property tax went up to $52,000,
Oh wow.
and it's actually $8,600. But someone again maybe it's me. Someone keeps messing up when it comes to my finances.
Common denominator is you.
It is me, but it's not me actually screwing up. It's just some energy I must be putting off. But yeah, they tried to. It all had to do with the escrow, and it reminded me of the fact that I do have homeowners insurance because I pay into escrow every month to pay for that coverage.
Did they ever fix that, by the way?
They did. They
Okay.
did.
So did you get the money back that they took?
Not all the money, but we can get into that later.
Real quick side note, I think this is helpful for listeners so you're careful about what you're doing with your own finances. The mistake was on the bank side,
Mm-hmm.
and because your mortgage is set up on an automatic draft, it was what, 5x what it was supposed to be. They just
Mm-hmm.
went ahead and took the money out of your account.
Yeah.
That's the craziest thing. So the money's gone. It's their mistake, but you don't have the money until they fix their own mistake.
Yeah. And by the way, 14 business days
To fix
to
their mistakes.
refund their mistake. That's not even including the process it takes to
Well.
send it up top to make sure.
We could do another episode on that when we learn some things that we could actually share. So I think this is perfect because I remember, Rishi, you actually, the reason I remember it is because you got attorney's fees
Yeah.
out of it. But you had a homeowner's issue that you represented a client on just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it was actually helping out a neighbor of mine, and it was a roof damage claim. His roof was damaged by hail, and his insurer, he had a roofer that had the roof inspected, found several spots where there's very clear hail damage, and so when the roofer created like a repair estimate, they sent it off to his insurance company. And the insurance company's response was, "No, there's no hail damage. It's all wear and tear. No sign of it, no actual signs of hail damage." So they appealed it, and they did a more detailed, I guess a revised line item repair estimate, and same response. They said, "No, there's no hail damage." But then they asked for an engineer to come out. So they had their own engineer come out, inspect it, and this was right around the time that I got involved in the case, and I'd sent a letter of rep to his insurer, and basically laid out why it was such a ridiculous position, and so then they came back and said, we've revised our analysis and said that there is hail damage, but there's only hail damage to like 6 or 7 tiles. And so we're only going to cover, about 15 square feet of roof as opposed to the entire roof. And
It's amazing how focused the sky can be.
right, exactly. It only hit those few spots, and it wasn't enough to warrant a roof replacement. So then we ended up getting an engineer, like a forensic engineer out of Colorado, to come in.
Oh my God.
And he inspected the roof, and he actually does this for a living. He actually used to do it for the insurance companies.
Mm.
And he was in-house an inspector. And so he knows exactly what they're looking for in terms of, what would be their justification. He photographed it, documented it, and had an entire report. And so we sent that with the final demand, that was above what the roofer's estimate was. They initially denied it and they fought back. And so we said, okay, well, I mean, that's bad faith, on the coverage side. They had absolutely no basis to continue to refuse the fact that there was hail damage, and it was, enough hail damage to warrant replacement of the entire roof. And then we finally ended up settling above the amount of the roof damage, and we got attorney's fees and expenses.
I just want to point out that clearly these people pay for homeowners insurance. This
Mhm.
is what they have it for. And they had to go so far as hiring an attorney and getting a forensic roof inspector to come out from Colorado
Yeah.
to finally get the insurance company to
Yeah.
to pay for the service that they're paying him to on a monthly basis, or I guess really annually.
And the insurance company paid more on that particular claim than had they just done their job.
Exactly. And that's really where, it's a little bit, this is where it's a little bit unique when you are the insured party. It's called a first party claim. The reason why it's first party claim is it's between your insurance, your insurance policy is a contractual agreement between you, the policyholder, and your insurance company.
Mhm.
And so that contract, when they violate it, um and the claim is for you as the first party beneficiary under that contract, it automatically triggers the bad faith and the contractual breach and all of those things that, that come up from contracts class, but it's all of those classic damages. It makes it a tough case typically for just a property damage case, but in this one, it was so egregious that because there was absolutely no justification for this constant delay, other than they were hoping that at some point the homeowner just gets tired of fighting and just accepts, what few scraps they wanted to throw his way, to
Mm.
resolve it.
And I think that's worth noting is that, we don't have to say the name of the insurance company, but whichever insurance company it is, it's not, if I have to venture a guess, it's not as if this particular insured is the one that they denied. They're doing this. They know that if they get popped, they're going to have to pay more, but it's still in their best business interest. Imagine how many claims they deny that people don't pursue
Mhm.
where it makes it financially justifiable for them to be like, okay, we can work in the possibility of getting popped one or two times, but we can, if we deny 100 and just pay more on one,
Right.
it's still financially beneficial.
Yeah. Well, and what happens when they, when that's their approach is that sometimes they stick out like the sore thumb. So in my client's neighborhood, out of 151 homes, um, 65 of them had their roofs replaced due to hail damage. And this one insurer was the only outlier to deny the existence of hail damage. Every single 65 other homes in that neighborhood within, like literally within walking distance of my client's home, all had their roofs replaced. And none of those other insurers had any problems, accepting that, yes, there's clearly roof damage here. It's within your policy, and we're going to cover the claim. They might fight on, the amount of the repair costs or the overall, but they don't deny that, the existence of the actual damage itself.
Right.
And so that's the part that's, like, clear as day, that, that there's clear damage, and you're getting it from your own engineer, you're getting it from the roofer, and you've got, photos, you've got the actual, it's a very detailed way that they describe, like, sample areas of each slope of the roof, and they just flat out denied what's clearly obvious from pictures, from descriptions.
What's so impressive about insurance companies is how much specialized knowledge they have.
Right. They're
They,
doctors, they're engineers.
that's exactly where I was going. They're making judgment calls on structural damage to roofs. These
Yeah.
adjusters are making those judgment calls. And in another division in the same company, they've got adjusters saying the way that that roof damage was denied, they've got people with suffered bodily injury saying, oh, this treatment was unnecessary.
Oh, don't get me started on health insurance. Well, we have a mutual who was diagnosed with cancer and had to have surgery, a very invasive surgery. She had to have her tongue removed and replaced and skin grafts and had to go through physical therapy to learn how to use certain body parts where they had to take grafts from. And the insurance company said that the health insurance company said that the hospital stay, her overnight stay, was medically unnecessary. After this mind you, she was there for a week in the hospital.
Yeah.
And they're like, you should have been out after like a day.
And it's insurance companies making this call. The physician, her attending physician, her surgeon, I'm assuming, likely recommended the stay.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's not like she was asking to stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that the insurance company is going to frame it as if the attending physicians are biased. They're like, well, yeah, of course they want them to stay because they get to earn money off of the hospital stay. But they're forgetting the fact that it's medical treatment.
Right.
They're in such a better position.
In reality, yes, there may be some theoretical, truth to that bias, but here's the reality: that attending physician is not, is also got to listen to his patient. There's no patient that just enjoys staying in a hospital setting so much that they just like, oh, I don't want to go home. Can you please extend my stay?
Right.
It's not, it's not a 5-star resort. It's not an all inclusive. It's not a vacation. It's a miserable place, and people want to get out of there as soon as possible. So even their patients are pushing to get out of there. I mean, I think the notion that that physicians and hospitalists are keeping patients longer than they need, the more than medically necessary. I think it's a ridiculous proposition. I mean, and it's not only the fact that the patients are pushing back, but there's a need. I mean, in most places, thankfully Atlanta is not that bad, but when you get outside of Atlanta and you get to rural places, there's a desperate need for that space. So
Right.
somebody else needs that bed. Somebody else needs that
Exactly.
triage room. Somebody needs that ER space. So the notion that the doctors are going to just keep everybody else waiting while they while they overcharge or overuse the space for this one patient, I think is ridiculous. They're under tremendous pressure to keep people moving, and as soon as they're well enough and ready to be discharged, they get them out of there.
Yep.
The premise is ludicrous. It's funny to me how the insurance lobby has done such a great job of playing the victim.
Of course.
Poor us. But they also shift it because they know where the pain point is. Like this is coming back to tort reform now. They're like, oh, Georgia consumers and Georgia businesses have to pay more. Like poor consumers. Excuse my language. Who the fuck is charging them more?
Exactly.
It's you. And they're publicly traded companies. We can see how much shareholder return you have every quarter.
And CEO compensation that has never gone the other way. It's only gone up
That's right.
by, several fold. And it's constantly the notion that a poor little insurance company is fighting, and is up against this unmatched, they can't fight against this behemoth that is the plaintiff's bar. That's
Right.
ridiculous.
Right.
That is really, it's actually astounding that's the side that they take, or the argument that they take.
My knee-jerk reaction is to find out who the CEOs are. No, I'm just kidding.
There's a reason the Luigis of the world exist.
On bringing it back to the homeowners' claims, I think I'm in the midst of the repair right now. They're going through the remediation. They have to take all the drywall out. They took the ceiling out. Obviously, there's insulation between, so it's all empty.
Well, water damage to your home, it is crazy how nuanced and how specific the policy gets in terms of coverages, right? The one thing that you don't have to worry about is the water originated inside your home, and that's going to almost always be covered, right? But the real question, or the real problem that gives homeowners sticker shock when they go to file a claim on their homeowner's policy is when water comes from the outside, because it really depends on what caused that. Is it basically a breakdown of the exterior barriers that's allowing regular natural like rainwater, or is it like a flooding storm? Like, is it due to storm water, or is it discharged from a neighboring property? But based on each one of those different scenarios, there may or may not be coverage under those things, depending on various types of coverages that you have under a homeowner's policy. And I only know this because I've had a friend deal with his neighbors. They changed something in their backyard, and it changed the way the water was flowing, and so it was basically water discharged from his neighbor's property onto his property, running up against the side, which finally gave way through the vapor barrier on the, I guess, the first, like, the basement level, and water was there was water intrusion at the basement level, but they said that is because the water was not originating off of his property, and it was not natural water on his property. It was actually water being discharged off of his neighbor's property. It wasn't covered, and they fought him like for a while.
Wow.
The funniest thing about insurance is if you don't need it, it's fine. And you think you're covered. It's that security blanket, that false security blanket, like everything's okay. The moment something goes wrong is when you really find out what you have.
Mhm.
It reminds me of the people that are driving around being like, "Oh, I've got full coverage."
There's no such thing as full coverage.
Right. What do you mean full coverage? We're laughing at it. I'm sure like somebody listening to this, mom, hi mom. She's like, "What's mean? I have full coverage." But there is no specific policy. There's all these different things that will happen. Like if your car is at flooding of a car, it was in North Carolina. Full coverage doesn't necessarily cover that. Collision wouldn't necessarily cover that. It would have to be comprehensive coverage. Like there's these very specific types of coverage that apply when it comes to any insurance, whether it's auto or home.
And even then, you have to read the fine print because they will find their exclusions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. To Rishi's point,
Oh,
it's not all flooding.
well, my favorite is almost you see this on almost all policies. There are certain things that we just can't explain how it happened. We're gonna call that act of God.
There you go.
Right.
And that is open to some pretty wide interpretation. Arguably, depending on where you fall on the faith spectrum. I mean, everything is an act of God at the end of the day.
That's a good point, Rishi. I actually never thought of it.
Car wrecks could be an act of God, even though it's due to the negligence of another motorist.
Oh my God, Rishi, you just gave the insurance carriers another way out.
Watch that come back and bite me.
Yeah. I think that this is worth a part two. Even like I said, mostly this was selfish for me to review some of the homeowner stuff. I want to see what I go through. We had a water remediation company. I forget the name of the company. I was going to give them a shout out. Integrity. All right. Shout out Integrity. If you don't do well by me, I'm going to come back on part two and blast you that. But no, they've been great guys. Shane or Sean is from Integrity. Young guy. Knows what he's doing though. This is pretty much all he's been doing his entire life. But he's young. He started right out of high school. They started the remediation process and he's like, this will always get covered. But I also have a feeling that he's saying that this will always get covered because it's going to be within the deductible anyways. So he's like, well, yeah, no, we'll always get paid on the
Sure.
remediation portion.
Sure.
But next week, there's fans everywhere in the house right now, drying everything out. Next week, our insurance company is going to come out. We have Hanover. I actually do really like Hanover. There's not many insurance companies that I like, but I like the people at Hanover. They've treated us well. We had an electrical strike here at the office. They took care of us there.
Sorry, I'm laughing. I always have to throw in a joke, especially a pun. As soon as you said Hanover, I just want to be like, do you think they're making money? Hanover fists?
Well played. Well played, Holly.
Thank you.
I've seen our premiums. Yes. Yeah, I think they are.
Good
Yeah.
for them.
I think maybe that's why they don't mind paying out on claims every 2-3 years.
They're
when you have
just
something.
swimming in the cash. They're like, here you go. Well,
They've
drop
got
the
great
deductible.
investors. They've got good financials. I see you, Hanover. they're going to send an adjuster out to check everything out. So the reconstruction is going to be another spiel altogether. So that's what I want to do.
I just came up with another one. They're just coming to me.
Well, don't set them up. Just say it.
I was just going to say they're not in the business of handovers. No, that's not as good.
Unlike auto insurance, I don't have much input to be like, this is what you need to look for.
I think it's a little bit different because it is so varied with homeowner, and property policies. There's the overall evaluation of the value of the property, and that has to constantly be updated based on the market value of your home, and that affects your premium. But there are so many different types of risks when it comes to homeowners policy that I think it would be impossible I mean, you can cover the broad ones, so the ones that are most common. But, depending on your locality, yeah, you're gonna have completely different. I mean, Florida homeowners policies are totally different
Yeah.
here.
Right.
In fact, some insurance companies, they've siloed off their Florida, underwriters and operations so that if there is ever like catastrophic thing that would otherwise tank or would, really affect, overall profits for a whole company, they can at least limit that just to this one Florida company.
To Rishi's point, I agree. Homes are one of those things where, like, down to the region you're located, it probably covers based on like what kind of structure your home is built out of, or how it's built, I should say, materials used. Like Florida homes are going to be much different than homes in Georgia. They're all going to be on stilts, not all, but you know what I mean? Versus the weather in that particular area. Whereas with automobiles or health insurance, for the most part, you can kind of predict what's going to be necessary. But I think with homes, yeah, to Rishi's point, there's
Geography.
so much nuance. Geography matters. Yeah.
Anecdotally, I heard about some policies from the Palisades fires in
Oh,
California
yeah.
that they had not updated because your statement just reminded me, Rishi, about updating the value. So these guys had insurance in place from the 80s and they never updated the home's value. So the replacement cost of their home.
Was based off like the 1980s numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So this is anecdotal. So I haven't actually, now I sound like President Trump. A lot of people have been saying. So I don't know the facts behind it, but I can see that being an issue where if you don't go back, I've got a 1970, you've seen it, the 78 Bronco that I have.
Yeah.
On paper, the market value of a 78 Bronco is fairly low, but it was like a classic vehicle that I bought from an auction site. So I actually had to call in and readjust. I had to get, oh man, now I don't remember the name of that insurance company, but they specifically do classic cars. So I went and I readjusted the replacement value of the car based on it being a classic 78 as opposed to just a 1978 Bronco,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So they had to adjust it. And I did try to push it up, but they only insured it for what I paid for it. They wouldn't go further,
That makes sense.
which is okay because I think it would be if something did happen to it, I could find a comparable one probably in that same range, but you never know
Yeah.
with these like classic cars or one-offs. It's tough to find a replacement cost and get an insurance company to agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Buyer beware.
Caveat emptor.
Act of God. No.
I don't know what that is in Latin. All right, everybody. If you got any information that was useful from this podcast, please subscribe, whatever platform you're listening to. Drop us a like, leave a comment. It would really help us out. Mom, just ask Holly how to leave a comment. She'll take care of for you. We look forward to talking to you next time. And as always, I look forward to taking care of you. Take care.